Hey guys, in today's video we will be talking once again about the tropics. It's quite active. Fred is obviously dissipating, it's on its way out. And of course, we'll be mainly talking about Grace and then Henri. Henri is now at 65 miles per hour. Its pressure is up 1 millibar since yesterday, particularly at 998 millibars, and it's moving due west now at 8 miles per hour. It's generally been moving quite slow over the past day. Yesterday, it was even moving as slow as 2 miles per hour, so it was crawling at one point. Now, Grace has strengthened a little bit once again overnight. It's now at 65 miles per hour. Its pressure has dropped to 993 millibars, and it's moving west-northwest now at 16 miles per hour. So now it's not moving due west anymore. It's now started to make a turn to the northwest a bit. Let's look at the track first for Henri, and you can see that it's expected to become a hurricane potentially by Friday afternoon. And the track, especially as we head out towards Saturday, Sunday, Monday, towards the end of this weekend and into the early part of next week, the cone has shifted on its western side a bit closer towards the New England coast, and that's because the models, particularly the GFS model, the Gfs Ensemble Models, they've been all starting to trend closer towards the New England coast. So that will be very, very interesting to watch as we head into the next few days and continue to see how much more likely or less likely that becomes. Now let's look at Grace and the track for Grace. Well, I guess we'll have to wait for this to load in. That's upsetting. But I will say that as we wait for the track to load in, that Grace is expected, here we go, to become a hurricane by overnight tonight or early Thursday morning, right before it hits the Yucatan Peninsula. You can see a hurricane warning is up for that coastline, that stretch of coastline for the Yucatan. I believe Cancun is also included in that hurricane warning, and then tropical storm warnings are in effect for the areas surrounding the hurricane warning, just to the south of the hurricane warning on that same coastline, and then along the northern coast of the Yucatan towards the northwestern coast of the Yucatan. And once it passes the Yucatan, it's expected to weaken because of that land interaction, become a tropical storm again. But once it gets into the Bay of Campeche, into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, it's expected to re-strengthen once again into a hurricane, because especially the warm waters are the biggest thing driving Grace to strengthen as much as it has so far, and will continue to strengthen most likely as we continue throughout the next few days. Maybe not so much Thursday, but we'll see. We'll see how much land interaction it disrupts, how much the land interrupts the system from strengthening. But yeah, that is a look at Grace's cone. Now let's look at how first Henri looks on satellite imagery, and then we'll transition to show you what Grace looks like. Henri currently has a lot of definitely deep convection around its center. Its center is maybe a little bit displaced to a little bit to the west of the deepest convection, but still a decently healthy system. There's some shear kind of intruding on it. You can see on the western side a bit, but honestly, it hasn't really been affected by it terribly, so it is expected to continue to strengthen as we move into through the rest of today, through the next especially few days. It's expected to become a hurricane by Friday, Saturday. So Henri is doing pretty well. Here's the general model track guidance for Henri. You can see they're expecting it to curve north within the next day or two. And then you can see a bunch of the models have shifted a good bit farther to the west, and we have a few even hitting New England. We have, of course, we have the H-Mon hitting, curving and hitting Long Island, New York City, Connecticut, and then a few continuing more north, but a bit farther to the west and hitting Nantucket, the Cape of Massachusetts. And then, of course, there is still a bunch that keep it out to sea, and generally the main threat from Henri would just be the rip currents and heightened surf along the beaches for the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and New England. So, we'll continue to have to see, continue to track Henri over the next few days and see if the models still continue to track it closer to the New England coast, but that will be very, very interesting to continue to monitor. Here's the Gfs Ensemble Models. You can see, again, as I was saying, a bunch of these models are starting to move it to the west a bit more and hitting the coast of New England, but of course there's still a bunch. There's still a whole bunch that keep it out to sea, and just, again, that only threat mainly is that heightened risk of rip currents and surf along the beaches. So it's going towards, especially Sunday and Monday. It would definitely not be a great day to be at the beach, as of right now, it seems. The Gfs Ensemble Model Track Guidance. This is the CMC ensembles. You can see a few of them keep it farther to the west, maybe hitting New England, impacting New England a bit more. Of course, there are still a bunch that keep it away from the coastline, and again, that rip current threat, the heightened surf. So, yeah, all of the ensemble models are generally in pretty good agreement right now, showing that they all think it is potentially going to, the Henri, when it curves to the north, it might be a bit farther to the west, closer maybe to the New England coast. We'll have to see maybe if eventually it's actually forecast then to hit the New England coast towards the early part of next week, this upcoming new week. But that's all a wait and see game right now. Here's the model intensity guidance for Henri. Very interesting. The very interesting one now. 12Z, the 12Z run for it. It's a strong tropical storm and is expected to become a Category 1 hurricane again around 60 to 72 hours out from now or so. A bunch of the models continue to keep it strengthening to a strong Category 1, Category 2. Few get it towards Category 3, even one gets it to Category 4. So that's pretty insane. I definitely don't think it will get all the way to Category 4 status. Category 1, Category 2 seems the most likely right now. Like, Category 3, slight chance. Category 4, really barely any chance. But, again, it's expected to become a hurricane, probably a Category 1 or 2 at most as of right now. And then, of course, it will really weaken once it gets into mainly, again, those colder waters, it seems. As of right now, not much land interaction, so it's really going to be those colder waters that start to kill it off eventually. But again, maybe land interaction, we'll have to see if the models continue to keep it tracking and hitting New England or impacting New England a bit more. The National Hurricane Center's track cone forecast could end up having it impact New England eventually, so we'll have to see how that plays out. All right, here is Grace, and Grace is looking pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. It's hitting the Cayman Islands right now. It's past Jamaica. And it's having amazing spiraling features with very strong convection blowing up around the center and some decent outflow. In fact, I'll show you what the aircraft recon is finding in a minute, but that'll be very, very interesting to show you guys. Here is the model track guidance for Grace, all in great agreement, and will continue generally to the west and northwest, across the Yucatan, going to the Bay of Campeche. Likely strengthen once again back into a hurricane. We'll have to see, and then again, most likely as well, we'll hit the mainland Mexico towards the early part of this week. I believe it's the early part of this. Towards the weekend. And then here's the Gfs Ensemble Models. Again, very great agreement that will continue generally to the west at the Yucatan, hit mainland Mexico, and again be in the Bay of Campeche before it hits mainland Mexico. GEPS, Canadian Ensemble Model Track Guidance, same thing pretty much. And then here's the Intensity Model Track Guidance for Grace. Likely will become a hurricane quite soon. It'll make landfall in the Yucatan. That land interaction most likely will weaken it back down to a tropical storm. It will enter the Bay of Campeche, and this is where most of the models think it will really strengthen a good bit, back to a Category 1, even Category 2, maybe get to major hurricane status towards a Category 3. We'll have to see how quickly it's able to take hold of how great the conditions of the warm waters are in that area. And of course, there's not really going to be much shear or anything like that. It'll really just mainly be this high pressure that will just continue steering it pretty much due west this whole time. So now let's look at what the aircraft recon is finding for Grace. And here we go. Here is they're in the storm right now, and they are finding the pressure still generally around 993, 994 millibars, generally where it's been currently. Though the winds, they are finding around the center, winds generally at most between 64 and 83 knots, which is very interesting. So that does lead me to believe that going towards this next advisory, 11 a.m., if not 11 a.m., which would be kind of interesting, even more, most likely 2 p.m., then I would expect Grace to become a hurricane officially. Here is what they've been finding in the storm, a bit more in depth here, but here is what they're finding: surface wind and rain rate. They're finding some. They did flag it for being a bit inflated because of the rain rate, but there is one right here that's around 60, between 60, around 60, 65 knots there. That's not flagged. So that's it. That is very interesting there. Now, of course, the flight level winds where they're generally flying in the storm, they did find winds up towards 75 knots, and the pressure falling pretty rapidly there. Now, again, because of that, does again lead me to believe that it will likely become a hurricane either at the 11 a.m. advisory or 2 p.m. advisory. So again, we'll have to again look out for that. Now let's look at the forecast models. This is the first time I'm really showing you guys the forecast models. Let's show you just the general North Atlantic. Now, of course, we're going to mainly be looking farther towards the United States. Of course, here's Fred dissipating, continuing to bring heavy rain, big severe weather threat to the interior Northeast and Mid-Atlantic today, is with a slight risk. So they're looking at potentially the chance of some tornadoes, strong winds, of course, hail. So very, very interesting stuff there. But again, then there's Henri and Grace. Let's show the GFS model. Again, it shows Grace strengthening as it gets towards the Yucatan. Henri as well strengthening as it continues towards the west and then curving north. Grace passes the Yucatan, enters the Bay of Campeche, and really strengthens. You can see 969 millibars, makes a landfall in mainland Mexico around 970 millibars. That makes it seem like it could strengthen all the way towards a Category 2, Category 3 hurricane, as what some of the models on the model intensity guidance currently are showing Grace doing. So that's very interesting. And then, of course, there's Henri, curving north, paralleling the eastern seaboard and strengthening quite rapidly. And then this run, the 06Z run, has it pretty strong in hitting the New England coastline, particularly coastal eastern New England, and really hitting eastern Long Island, eastern Connecticut, Rhode Island, eastern Massachusetts, the Cape, Nantucket, and then bringing some major impacts as well to coastal New Hampshire and Maine, and then bringing its remaining impacts and rain and whatnot to Nova Scotia, and then its remnants go out to sea. That is very interesting. Now, let's see how consistent the GFS has been with this. Let's see. 00Z run, kind of the same story. Interesting there. 18Z run from yesterday. Again, a bit offshore, but still pretty close to the New England coastline. So this is telling me, and should be telling you guys as well a bit, that the GFS model in particular is starting to become more consistent and start trending towards Henri potentially hitting New England and bringing a lot of its impacts mainly to eastern New England. Now, of course, the highest impacts, according to the GFS right now, with the heaviest rain, the strongest winds, and even the heightened surf, whatnot, would be for coastal Massachusetts, the Cape area, Rhode Island, even maybe portions of eastern Long Island, Block Island, and then maybe even parts of eastern Connecticut as well. Central western Connecticut seems like, as of right now, get some rain, maybe some gustier winds a bit, and I would also expect actually even in western Long Island Sound, in those areas, New York City, western Long Island, the surf to be enhanced a good bit as well. So even areas around New York City could see some decent effects from Henri, even if it's not the heaviest rain, the strongest of winds to knock out power and whatnot. You could still see some points of heavier rain and some gusty winds, and even still some heightened surf and rip currents. So that's what the GFS is showing. Quite interesting there. The European model, let's look at the European model now. This is the 000 run. Here's Henri and Grace. The European model has Henri in particular not really doing anything, starts getting absorbed and dissipating because of another storm system, another frontal boundary coming off the East Coast and absorbing it, dissipating it. But you can see there's a European model with Grace really strengthening it as it moves over the Yucatan. Doesn't seem to really disrupt. It doesn't seem like the European thinks the Yucatan will disrupt Grace all that much, and Grace will continue to strengthen a good bit as it goes through the Bay of Campeche and hits mainland Mexico. Very, very interesting stuff there. Now, let's look at the Canadian model, the CMC model. And let's change this back to MSLP and Precip. Bring this forward in time. The CMC model is a good bit weaker with Grace. Obviously, it's not really the best model. And the CMC model with Henri does have it a good bit closer to the coast of New England than it has been before. Still doesn't really have full-on direct impacts, but it does have it strengthening a good bit before as it's heading towards the north or a bit to the north and east or whatnot, in that kind of direction. So we could be looking at, as we head towards, again, this would be around, again, towards the beginning of this new upcoming week, around Monday really, is when we could really be seeing Henri potentially either directly full-on impacting us, maybe in eastern New England, we'll have to see, or maybe it'll shift even further west to hit New England and western New England as well as New York City head-on, or it starts to shift again and brings it farther to the east, more offshore, and just brings more indirect impacts, mainly heightened surf and rip current impacts to New England and the northeast coast and those areas. So we'll have to see. Now, of course, Grace, it's the Yucatan. It's mainland Mexico. It is likely to strengthen. I would expect, honestly, not even assume, expect it to strengthen. Grace to expect it, to strengthen the most when it's in the Bay of Campeche in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico before it hits mainland Mexico. So, yeah, that's what the models are looking like for Grace and Henri in particular. And let's show you what the North Atlantic's general sea surface temperatures are looking like, because this is, again, as I've been saying, the sea surface temperature is a big factor in this. Henri is sitting out in, can't even believe I'm saying this, is sitting out in about 29-30 degrees Celsius waters, just south and southwest of Bermuda. Grace, pretty much the same thing, 30, even maybe close to 31 degrees Celsius waters in the northwestern Caribbean. And then it enters the Bay of Campeche, pretty much the same waters, even a bit warmer, closer towards generally 31 degrees Celsius. So both systems have really, really great conditions to strengthen as much as they want, really, as much as they can, in particular Grace, honestly. So that's really, really concerning. Now, as we close out this video, we're looking at the 2021 Atlantic Hurricane Season Wikipedia page. It's been a fairly active season thus far. We've had 8 named storms, 1 hurricane, that was Elsa. No major hurricanes yet, but from what it seems like, Grace will become definitely our second hurricane of the 2021 Atlantic Hurricane Season, and even maybe our first major hurricane of the 2021 Atlantic Hurricane Season. So far, this year's Atlantic Hurricane Season has a total of 20 fatalities and total damage of now $1.225 billion in damage. The current forecasts for the 2021 Atlantic Hurricane Season moving forward, looking like it'll be an active one, potentially getting towards the end of the conventional naming list. Very, very interesting stuff there. Again, we're in August. We're getting now into the peak of the hurricane season. We're in kind of that beginning part of the peak of the hurricane season. The true peak of the hurricane season is in early to mid-September, on September 10th in particular. That's the peak day of the peak of this Atlantic hurricane season. But generally, August, September, it's the peak time frame of the Atlantic hurricane season. So we'll be expecting to see a lot of, most likely a lot of named systems occurring within these next at least few weeks. And then, of course, getting towards the end of the season, does look like La Nina may come back towards September, October. So, maybe that'll heighten a bit the end of the season's activity, so that'll be interesting. Current ACE value of the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season is now at 17.2 units as of 21 o'clock UTC, August 17th. So the ACE is continuing to go up because of the amount of tropical cyclones that are occurring currently. Here's Henri, and then of course there's Grace, and Fred is dissipating. It's on its way out. It's just generally bringing rain, thunderstorms, severe weather now to the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, and especially the interior Northeast. Unfortunately, Fred has indirectly killed one person, and that was likely when it made landfall in Florida, or in Florida, or generally once it made landfall in that southeast region there, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Carolinas, the southern Appalachian areas. Now, damage for Fred and Grace is unknown still, but I would assume Fred has caused some amount of damage. Grace likely will cause a decent amount of damage. Henri, we'll see. We'll see what Henri does. We'll see if it really directly impacts anywhere or doesn't really impact anywhere. It could cause indirect deaths, maybe not direct deaths. We'll have to see, which is unfortunate, of course. But, yeah, we'll continue to have to monitor Grace and Henri in particular over the next few days, over the weekend and into early next week. Very, very interesting systems, both of them. Honestly, what the recons are finding, especially in Grace, very interesting. Looks like it'll become a hurricane momentarily over the next, at least within the next 1 or 2 advisories. I would expect Grace to become a hurricane officially from the National Hurricane Center. So again, we'll continue to track Grace and Henri over the next at least, I would say 5-6 days at the very least. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel down below. If you guys like this kind of content, please consider subscribing down below. Like this video, and of course comment down below what you guys think Grace and Henri will do. Let's have a nice lively discussion down there in the comments section, yet a respectful one. And again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you like this kind of content, I please strongly advise you to subscribe to my channel. If you really like this kind of content, like the video down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.